Welcome back to the Max Everett Athletes Network podcast. We got a star-studded cast. I told you, season 2, we're coming in hot. We got Colin Virtual, Cole Susak here, and our special friend from Storied Rivals, Aaron. So, real quick, Cole, what are your thoughts today?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'm super excited to have Aaron on. Obviously, Storied Rivals here in Central Ohio is absolutely massive. I know from being involved with the Granville football team, shout out to all my dudes out there, that these guys absolutely love getting their highlight videos from Storied Rivals. And as a former Barnesville Shamrock in the Ohio Valley, I was absolutely jealous of every single team that worked with Storied Rivals because I want to have a sick-ass highlight tape. I'm super pumped to have you on. And I know we've done some work in the past and everything like that, but for our listeners, and especially Colin, can you give us a breakdown of what you guys do and kind of how you started this?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, video highlights, so Storied Rivals, the idea is to capture the essence of competing athletics. It's not so much like the individual highlight reel or the highlight. It's about the experience of playing and participating in that game or that season with your team. That was the whole idea, was giving athletes in the community and the parents something to look back on, that they could re-enjoy what it was like to play on that team. I always talk about, if you go to a gym or a stadium, you see numbers on a wall. There's nothing to go with those numbers, and quickly those championships are forgotten. And the idea was, what if we can not only just show the plays, but show what the faces look like on those teams, how excited they were in that given moment, and capture that, then package it in about as cinematic as we can make it, given our resources. So that's the idea. Then how we determine our coverage in the games we go to, we're a for-hire company. It all goes back to, I came from a TV background where we covered any and everything, and it was just overarching advertiser support. Our thought was that a team or a booster program collectively would say, hey, we want to buy our own media coverage. We're not going to wait on someone else to cover us. We're going to determine our coverage and trust this company or these guys to produce this video for us to have, and that way we do it the right way. So, yeah, teams hire us, they reach out, we get them scheduled, and then we put them into our master schedule and just start going. When we shoot a game, we release it the week of. Now, back in the day when we first started, I would film everything myself and then edit one film at the end. Once we became
for one team. Were you with one team?
Yeah, pretty
much.
It? What's that?
What team were you shooting?
John Glenn football was the first team we ever did.
Okay.
John Glenn High School in New Concord. And the funny story I tell people was, came up with a business name, created a logo, and had no clients, and didn't really buy equipment until John Glenn said, okay, we'll try this thing that you're talking about. I had no demo, we had no nothing. It's just here's what it's going to look like. And then once they said, all right, for this small fee, which was way cheaper than it ever should have been based on the work I put in, then I went and bought the camera, bought the equipment, used credit cards, and then started developing what it ultimately looked like. Because keep in mind, in 2008 when we started, there was no one to copy.
Yeah.
This didn't exist. There weren't people making what I envisioned our videos would look like. So really just developed them on the fly, and they've continued to evolve. We've added some great staff members. Sean, a guy's been with me for 10 years. He's really helped develop what the product looks like and where it continues to grow. But that's a really brief background.
Yeah, no, I think what you said about having the jerseys on the wall and everything like that is a lot of it, because even growing up, I would idolize the teams and the players before me, and then I would have that vision running through my head all the time. So by the time I got to high school, like you said, I wish I had these high produced edits to look back on, because there's so many times where you want to reminisce and just turn on your old highlight tape and watch games and stuff like that, but I can't. So these kids having this option that they'll have mostly every single game all 4 years of high school that they can go back and watch on is absolutely massive.
And I tell parents, it's either important to you or it's not. So we have a lot of teams reach out to us. Some of us then ghost us and don't reply. And just how I've accepted the fact that they don't want to hire us is it's just not important enough. Because, financially, it's not cheap, but, collectively it's definitely affordable to be able to bring us in. And it's you're not getting these memories back. You're never going to have them again. So it just must not be that important, because you could get the money. And that's kind of how I've thought of that when someone doesn't want to use us is, they might not have it, but there are means to be able to raise enough money to do what we do. And I think that what we do personally is the most important thing you could do for a season. Outside of the uniforms you have to wear, it's more important than any team meal you're spending money on, any duffel bag or stupid plaque at the end of the season that literally gets thrown into a box and thrown away that you'll never see again.
Yeah. So how many teams are you guys covering?
I've kind of lost track. I mean, football's our busiest season. I think we were at like 26 or 27 football teams. Wow. So we're going to about 26 or 27 games a week, basically, unless the teams are playing each other, which happens. And then you also throw in soccer and volleyball in the fall season. So those sports are fun. And then it kind of dips as the seasons go. You know, basketball, not as much, and spring, certainly not as much. And I think that's just because in basketball there are more people with cameras at games and there's more people producing content. So maybe someone doesn't want something as detailed as what we make. And the booster clubs are smaller. Football has larger booster clubs with more people and kids involved.
Yeah. Colin, did you have anything like that, like from where you're from, of like a video resource to like outside of like your parents taking the camcorder and just recording your games? Like I know like back home, like that's how we got highlight tapes. It was like, oh, my mom has a camera, so she's like recording. Like, did you guys have anything like that?
No, and that's exactly what I was going to allude to. It's a pretty cool product you guys have, Aaron. I mean, I started, I was in high school in 2010, and I did everything on VHS. Like when I made my highlight film, it was on a VHS, and that's not that long ago.
That's not at all.
And what you just said to people, this is the number one thing that people should be buying outside the uniforms. It definitely holds true because I have nothing left from that. Like my VHS tape looks horrendous. Like it literally looks horrendous. So every kid and the parents and the boosters, this is something they should be advocating towards 100% because this is what tells the stories years from now. Like Cole alluded to, like sometimes you just want to pop that highlight film in and show some people or show your kids something like that. So the fact that you guys are capturing this much content within Ohio is really, really impressive because there's nothing here in PA that's doing it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's the idea. I mean, I don't know of anyone, I don't say this lightly, and I don't know for sure, but I feel like no one is doing this at scale anywhere in the country. I mean, for as many games as we film under one roof, as much footage as we edit on a weekly basis, I mean, I just don't know how anyone could be doing more.
Yeah.
Well, and what's really awesome is your ability to stay like relevant in this like age of social media because you are putting out instant highlights. I mean, it's usually night of, but there's always some sort of media source that night where if I want to see a recap of this game, I know I'm searching Storied Rivals. Like I'll be at a high school football game and I'm like, oh, I need to check the scores. I just immediately go to Twitter and search Storied Rivals, and there's a thread on scores. Like every big game is covered. It's all so immediate. And in this world of like digital, everyone wants access to everything at their fingertips. I think what you guys do is extremely important for like not only for the schools that you cover, but in general for like the social media and like the pop of sports highlight videos on social media. Like the sports coverage in general is just world class from Storied Rivals.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, that's the goal. Is like we would definitely want to prop up the teams we cover, but we want to show love to every kid. If we cover get an amazing play by a kid that we don't cover, certainly we're going to post it. The work has to be paid for, right? The labor. That's what it always came down to. It's like if I'm going to spend 5 hours on something, that's 5 hours that someone wants paid for, whether it's me personally or an employee. They don't want to do it for free, so there has to be a financial thing tied to it. So our primary business, of course, started with the teams, and it still remains that way. But then we've added, because of the exposure and the eyeballs we get, we added the sponsorships. And because the community does consume what we put out on a consistent basis. And unlike the media I came from, which was TV, where let's get it up as quick as possible. We might drop a quick clip if we got a game winner, go back to the office, put it up that night. But mostly we're like, you'll wait 5 days and it'll be really good. So we also flipped that script because when we first started, you don't post tonight? No, I'm not working till 3 a.m. You'll wait and it'll be really, really good on Wednesday. So we kind of set that trend of it's okay to wait. You don't need it. And even our season films, we take months to deliver the final season film, but we got a lot of hours in it. So
yeah, and you do like the really cool, like the top 10 plays. Like everyone grows up watching SportsCenter top 10 plays. They want to be on it, and you guys put that together every week, and it's posted on social media. So it's like that instant gratification for kids. Like, oh, I made a sick play. I'm gonna go share it. And I think a lot of that comes from like your brand that you build is so cool with this generation that kids want to share it. They want to be part of it. They're hyped when they see a Storied Rivals camera. Like they know it's going to be high quality.
That's the hope. I mean, I was telling the guys recently that I kind of feel like in some ways, because we've been doing it a while, and because a lot of times we only post highlights, we don't do a ton of engagement because we're editing all the time. There's sometimes I feel like we're kind of like the establishment, and some people like to be anti-establishment. Which I don't love. I don't like that at all. And maybe that's not the case, but because we'll see highlights of games that are posted that we're also at by someone that with way less followers than us, and it'll get way more pop, and it's filmed way worse than ours. I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't get it, and I think there's part of it of that. We've been around a while. This is the new guy or the new thing, and I don't know. I haven't. Then of course, there's honestly, an algorithm as well.
But honestly, even it might be like the kid who just graduated high school who's now trying to get his spot into there, to where you've now influenced these kids so much. Now they're like, oh, I kind of want to get into the creative media.
And some of that is definitely the case. And it's funny, while I say like maybe we're the establishment, I mean, I don't want that to be certainly want the young creatives to look up to us. That's great. But I feel like we just started because mentally in my head, so far where we need to be. We've just been grinding for so long. Now we're in this cycle of this season, game. We haven't had a ton of time to grow, but all the growth is still up here as far as what we need to do to get to scale and get to the next level, to keep providing this. Because I'm getting older and I get more wore down, and we replace with young guys. Luckily, I got to give a shout out to our staff. They're unbelievable. I mean, our staff of full-time guys are freaking rock stars.
Yeah, 'cause I'm sure there's probably a lot of people curious. How many guys are on staff? Like, how many dudes do you have going to the games, like recording and stuff like that?
So, I mean, of course, we have, full-time guys. I think we have 10 or 11 total employees, with 8 or 9 of us going out to film every week. So there's that. And then we're filming every. What was the other part of the question?
Just like going to the games, recording. I mean, think about
all the total staff, right?
Yeah.
So then all those guys also edit. All the full time guys edit.
How long does an edit take?
Forever, and that's what.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, you think you can do this in 5 seconds, right?
Yeah, there's no magic button. Now, I am keeping my eye on AI for sure, and seeing in some way at some point how can you leverage the technology to our benefit. And I think it's probably pretty close to being able to at least use it in some component of what we do. But no, a game takes us anywhere from 5 to 8 hours to edit. There's no in between, depending on how good the game was or how thoroughly it was filmed, how long it takes to pick the right music. And we do have a system in that, but there's no magic button to press.
I just think you explaining that helps out a lot of the people, maybe on the outside looking in, thinking, oh, it's just a highlight film. It's not just that.
It's not. It's not just that. Yeah, it's not a highlight film and it's not a documentary. That's why we kind of just coined the term like Unreal Highlights is like our version to describe what we do. Because it's not highlights with music. And I tell guys all the time, there's a fine line between highlights with music and what we do, or cheesy and what we do. And when we go back and watch someone's edit, you can easily see, is it what we do or is it a version of what someone else tries to do? Because this is not it. Yeah. If it doesn't make you feel in some kind of way, you failed. It either has to give you chills, make you cry, get you amped. If it doesn't do any of those things, then your edit's trash.
Because, just from my creative standpoint, like I appreciate how you guys try to tell the entire story of what was that game like? What was the weather like? What was the environment like? What were the coaches like? Like you going into the locker room and getting the coach's speech, then showing the players warming up and building that tension, and like with the music behind it. Like I think people might underestimate the music of how it leads up to the big game breaking interception that sealed the deal, and the music's hitting and the crowd's bumping, it's live, you're showing all that stuff. Like I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the production value. That's it. Is we talk about that all the time. When did you change music? Why did you change music there? Oh, because the song ended. Well, that's not a good reason. Change the music in the edit with intent. Why did you change the music? And then how do you extend the song to get to the point you want to change with intent? Or how do you build a song? Well, there's this one spot in the song where it builds to a crescendo and I need that highlight at that spot. How do I make that happen? Because that's when the game changes, or when that hit or that pick happened or the touchdown, or there's a lot of thought into it. And I think it's that thought process that really separates us in what you call production value.
100%.
I wish we could cut corners at time, but unfortunately that's not our product.
Yeah. And real quick, I want to touch on like the fact that you said like you kind of are viewing yourself as the establishment now, kind of like this vet brand. But I think it goes to say that like you're still a cool, awesome brand that these kids love. Like these kids treat them getting shared on Storied Rivals or having their highlight film or whatever is like ESPN. It's the local ESPN basically.
That's the hope, man.
And
I hope they think that way.
Which is why us at Max Effort like want to partner with you guys because, you know, we kind of view ourselves as, you know, kind of being like this inspiration and, you know, wanting to try to push the Max Effort brand of like not just on the field, but in every aspect of life, like putting your best effort forward and stuff like that.
100%.
So teaming up with you guys was like an easy no-brainer.
And that's a great transition, Cole, because really I think it is a no-brainer. And that's kind of where I want our brand to trend as well. I want to be a motivational brand. I want to inspire kids and youth and coaches and parents, everyone to be better in their lives. And with everything you guys are putting out at Max and everything Corey is putting out on his personal content, which of course is the face of Max, it really aligns well. And that's how that relationship kind of started was I followed Corey, I followed Max. I really dug the stuff you put out in terms of content. And of course the product is good. And my thought was every high school locker room I go into, there is protein in every locker. It should be Max Efforts because you guys live that life. You're the Real Athletes Company, right? You're the Real Athletes Company. And at one point, you guys called yourselves the swaggiest supplement company out there, which I still like.
It's transformed into real supplements for real athletes. Because that's what it comes down to.
And you guys live the life. You don't talk about it. And so many people are not about it. Yep. They just talk about it. And you guys are about it. And I think you use the product, you test, you train athletes. So I think that relationship is great. And that's why I want to get that information into the homes, in the locker rooms of the places where we operate, because you guys are talking right to them and they have an opportunity to absorb that information and help better their lives, whether it's in the gym, whether it's their actual physical health or their mental health and their ability to tackle an obstacle because the positive speak you guys talk about all the time, from the Max Effort content and then Corey's motivational content, Corey's books that he's writing to the masses. You consume it enough, you're going to start to believe it. My daughter recently started kindergarten, and I write her a note every day before school. It's kind of like the time to send her a message.
That's cool. And
at the end of every message, I always write, "Be kind, be confident, be you." Be confident, be kind, be you. And the idea was, and this stems from Corey's book, and what Corey preaches is, if you are confident, you can do freaking anything, and you can be a killer. You are untouchable if you are confident, and with 100%. So can I ingrain that in a little kid that early and understand what that means to be confident? I can't be rattled. You can call me names. It doesn't matter, right? But that all connects back to Max and how athletes can be themselves.
Like one thing that kind of puts all together is what makes this partnership so great is that it's so authentic. And the reason why we love this partnership and why we want to help athletes everywhere is because I wish, in my mind, I'm still about a 16-year-old kid who's tweeting Corey how to take creatine that just wants to get better. That's what it is. So now, going through all this, we're in the position now where we can help and be like the coaches and the examples to help lead kids down the right path, to figure out, what meals do I need to take? Here's the meal plan. When do I need to take supplements, or what supplements do I need to take? Here's that. And tying that all together and just realizing that it's not just about, sports and stuff like that. It's about what are you doing outside of sports too.
And
how are you acting like that?
That's a big emphasis right now that you guys are all working on. Corey's working on really building that platform, which I'm super excited about. Not only now can I tell kids what are the best supplements to take, but I can direct you how to get in the shape you need to be and the health you need to be in because of what you guys are creating. It's going to be a real tool for athletes and parents to check out, to figure out on their own, how do I train, how do I eat?
Yeah, and I think that's the big mystery for all these kids is we were all kids, Colin, Cole, and myself, we were all kids looking up to these brands like Storied Rivals, like Corey, and now it's cool to see these worlds kind of, mesh together. Colin, I'm interested what your thoughts are just from an external view. Obviously you work with us at Max and we're working on building this athlete's brand. You're part of it. It's awesome. You being a former athlete / current athlete, because you're still a dog, what are your thoughts around creating brands that are cool for athletes and just staying relevant and kind of leading a charge in a world full of fake information?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I lean into you guys so much. Similar to what Cole says, like I was looking up to guys like Corey and Storied Rivals and seeing what's being put out there. But you want something that's authentic. And I think for my own brand that I have, I try and align it with stuff that you guys do. I try and live the life. I don't want to talk about it. I actually want to live the life. So when people come and meet me, like they say, never want to meet your heroes because sometimes you find out they actually don't do what they say they do. I want people to see that like I'm actually doing exactly what I say I do. When I come out to see you guys and people ask me, what's it like at Corey's gym? What's it like when you go to Max? I'm like, it's exactly what they show. It's literally exactly what they show every day. They show up, the gym's open at 4 a.m. The guys are lifting. There's a good camaraderie. Like, it's what it's all about. And Aaron, it goes to you. It's like people are willing to wait for that product now to come out on a Wednesday because you guys have built such a reputable brand out there that people don't need it right away. They're like, oh man, I want to wait to see what Storied Rivals putting out this week. I actually consume your guys' content, and I have no clue who's playing in Ohio.
Good.
But I know there's a connection between you guys and Max. I know the product you guys put out is really, really good. So to answer that question, I want to throw a question back at you, Aaron. Like building a brand like this, obviously it's very hard, especially with like the media age now, how it's so rapid fire. What are some of the challenges that you faced along the way here? And then, what are some of the growth opportunities that you're seeing in the future?
I think the challenge is because when we were doing it, there weren't really other people doing it. So from like trying to stand out in the market, that wasn't a thing. The first thing was just creating the market. I mean, I feel really confident in saying that we created a market that has really opened the doors for other people as well, and showing that you can make money doing this type of content. So that was a challenge, I guess, in creating the market. And then just the challenge of doing business and being an entrepreneur when you're bootstrapped from the get-go is not giving up, not because it's hard. I mean, growing a business is hard. Growing a brand is hard. There are a lot of ways to take shortcuts and quit. But at the end of the day, you've come this far. You didn't come this far just to come this far, right? Mm-hmm. So just being able to stick with it and believe that you're going to figure this out. Because financially, I mean, I'm a normal employee making normal salary. I mean, really, I don't operate as an owner in any way. I operate as I'm a guy grinding, so all the other employees and we all could benefit from what we're building. So that's the biggest challenge, is just staying positive and dealing with every obstacle that comes your way, whether it's dealing with a disgruntled parent or a coach, or dealing with people, keeping the bills paid, the finances, making a bad financial decision and trying to recover from it because you were trying to make a difference and realize that was wrong. How do I scale back to recover from that? We've had those challenges. But that's a great question. Really, Colin, it's just the entrepreneurial journey, and then believing in believing your truth throughout it, and that it's just gonna freaking work, and you're gonna figure it out. That's it. I mean, that's overall the biggest challenge.
And how about the growth opportunities that you see?
Growth, that's what keeps me excited and going, because we're like 3% of what we can be, and how we can scale this. And I always say that we're a 100% scalable company, and that's the value. So when I think about maybe trying to get angel investors or investors, is to show them that we're a very labor intensive service industry, but I think it can scale, and I have the plans in my head of how to scale this thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's us growing. I think we're doing about as much as we can do as an internal team. It's like, how do we grow that team in outside areas? So I think a lot of the secret is the secret sauce. How do we do it? What's our thought process when we make an edit? How do we communicate with teams? How do we publish our content? And then how do you scale that way? I think that's the future. And the future is just continuing to diversify. There are more people with cameras now. There are more people putting out content. That's why we have went into different product lines, created the relationship with Max Effort. How does that develop into something else? Whether that's some type of just talking about strength training and continuing to educate people elsewhere. I mean, every brand evolves. This was just the way we started. Mm-hmm. The way we got in was doing this. And now it's up to us to continue to think, how do we grow? How do we not get stagnant? And the people that do try to do highlight videos or try to copy us, or whether it's take our business, it is what it is. But what you got to remember, when you're copying someone else, usually the person you're copying is 3 steps ahead. You're thinking of, cause that's just the way you think. And at least with me, never content. I mean, it's always, what can we do next? How can we change? How can we evolve? We've really enjoyed doing the team apparel that we do. We really enjoy promoting the health supplements that we promote, and understanding what that does from an athlete's standpoint. Yeah, I think the growth potential is huge, and that's what keeps me excited. On the days I want to quit and just be like, I just get to go work at Best Buy or something like that. Yeah, but man, we're this close in my head. Like, and you get the positive feedback that makes you feel good. A parent or a kid, like, man, that was cool, or
Yep.
that certainly makes it worth it. But it's the other stressors, though, Colin, outside of, again, keeping employees happy, making sure they can live their lives. I don't want employees struggling. I want them to be paid for their talents. So it's my job as the business owner to find out that formula. How can I pay that guy a nice wage where he isn't stressed and he can have what he has and work the hours he needs to work? It's not just about me. It's creating that whole concept. Because if you think about media or creatives, it's not a great lifestyle. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of long hours and underappreciation. I want all those things to be flipped. Mm-hmm. We don't really work late nights unless we're at games. We're not editing late. We edit during the day. While we don't get paid a ton, we try to keep our people paid as much as possible as a creative to make it worth their time. And we try to value quality of life and getting to spend time with family. If we have to work a weekend, I usually check with all the guys. Anybody available this Sunday? You'll get paid extra to work, but we need to do the shoot this Sunday. But we value that they might have something going on. So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what are kind of the pain points that you see that are like to kind of piggyback off of Colin's question, like what roadblocks are preventing you from like getting there? I know we talked a little bit off air about, just like kids in general now and like the way that they respond to certain things, but like what overall like are some roadblocks that you see like helping you get there?
Roadblocks. I just need some of my time back. I need time so I can be, I work with some different people that are a lot smarter than me, trying to figure out like, if you had to pick something or what if you were good at something, what would it be? You got to be really honest with yourself, right? I think I'm pretty good at ideation. I think I have a lot of ideas. I'm not even the best at the executing the ideas, but I think I have a lot of ideas that people don't think of that can either work or not work. So it's like, how do I free myself up to not be the guy running payroll or delivering this or designing shirts or how do I free myself up? That's a roadblock in my opinion. And then the other roadblock, of course, is just finances. We are self-funded. Our cash flow and our revenue that we pay our employees with and pay our rent and our equipment is the money we generate, and only that. Mm-hmm. There are no investors right now. If you want to invest, give me a call. We can discuss that. Because I am 100% owner, but I also understand the value of giving up a lot or a little to make more, in the long run, and to be able to expand. So financially, if we had, I guess money to go toward labor to keep people paid more to free ourselves up, there's a lot of things that could be put in place and executed that could really light this thing on fire. And I look at some of the companies that I guess in our space that have gotten big time investors, and I kind of shake my head because a lot of them are pre-revenue. They're getting investments based off of either clicks or just buzz, followers, but they don't actually generate money. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, if you have eyeballs, you can generate money. If you have millions of followers, you could be an influencer and get paid $50,000 to make a post, and it does make money. But I do look at some of these, even like overtime. Like overtime, hats off to them. They're making it work. I don't know who owns overtime at this point, but they basically were built on the backs of using other people's content and just generating hype.
Yep.
And that's their brand. I really don't know what their brand means or stands for or what their ultimate goal is, but they get a lot of buzz, get some investors, and there are other companies like that have popped off. There's a big part of me that would love to say every year, let's circle 5 tournaments or events. Let's go all out, send our best guys to produce the best content from that event and just blow up the eyeballs. That'll get the eyes of investors if we do content really well. Yeah. And I think our team of full-time people, I would say we have the best in-house team anywhere. The number of guys for the product we produce, with game highlights and covering teams the way we do. Not necessarily maybe Hollywood or New York City production teams, but for sports highlights and capturing all with one camera and not 5 cameras, I think we do it pretty well. But again, those are the roadblocks: my time and money. And but I think we have everything else in place. We have the ideas in place.
Yeah, for sure.
Aaron, I got a question for you. Speaking about I obviously don't know much about your history growing up playing sports and whatnot, but like, what made you want to have that entrepreneurial route and, give back to kids and kind of create this business you've created to showcase what they're doing? Like, was there a certain part of your life, like reflecting back, like, hey, I wish I had a highlight film for myself, or this and anything? Like, what
Right.
kind of like slingshot you to go do this?
That's a funny story, and hopefully it could inspire some young kids because everything life's the long game, and your first decision does not have to be your final decision in your career or what you're interested in. So for me, my dream was to be on ESPN. I was a kid. I played baseball. I was very average. That's really the only sport I played and was just average at that, right? But I did love. I was the kid that woke up every day and watched SportsCenter on repeat. I did. I loved it, and I would recite the local news. I knew all the stats, and I just loved sports. That was the thing that I guess I kind of identified with. That I don't know made you. I don't know if it gave you purpose or made you fit in, but I felt like I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing information. That led me to say I want to be on SportsCenter, so I studied journalism. Loved to write for the newspaper, did radio play-by-play, eventually worked in local TV. And at that point, I kind of saw like, local TV or any TV, it's very competitive. Not only you have to be good, you have to know people, and then even then you're not getting paid anything, and you have terrible hours. So it's like, what could I do to change my life? And then I really just started thinking on my own, like at night, like, what does this look like? I had no idea I was an entrepreneur, had the tendencies, but I know that I wanted to bet on myself, and that's kind of what I go back to. Like, look, if I was on salary at the time, a very low salary. I'm like, if I'm gonna work hard regardless, whether I'm only getting paid 40 hours, I know I'm gonna work 60. I'm gonna do the best I can. So if I'm gonna bust my ass, I'm gonna benefit, and only me. And I knew I would bust my ass, so that's where I'm like, I got to figure this out and go out on my own, and just kind of see. And the idea for the highlight films just goes back to the banners in the gym, and I think there was a need for it. And we'd always get people call the TV station. Hey, can I get a copy of what was on the news? I'm like, well, people want this stuff. Maybe I could create a platform where they actually have the ability to pay for it.
Were you, like, in any sense, did you consider yourself a creative at all?
That word didn't exist in 2008.
Or was that more just like you built the skills necessary and evolved into
Well,
this?
it's funny how things come full circle because I loved art in high school. I took 4 years of art. So I knew there was that artistic side. I loved page layout when I worked for the college newspaper doing page layout. My first job out of college was working at a print shop, hacking my way through graphic design and self-teaching myself Photoshop and learning layout and aesthetic. And that's funny because then I went and worked in TV, so chased my dream of being in TV, just reading the news and doing that type of stuff to, hey, can I come back to the print shop? And as I go back to the print shop, I'm like, well, now I can work on my own logo. Now I can work on my own branding. Now I can, and also at the print shop, this was also huge. I actually talked to the print shop owner the other day. I said, I want you to understand. I said, I probably never told you this before, how much you actually inspired me and taught me and helped me where I'm at right now. Because it was just a job at the time. But at the time, it was the most successful person I'd ever personally witnessed to build a company and had the freedom that comes with that. And I took that in and asked him a question about business. I asked him, learned about some tax stuff and how to price stuff and deal with clients. But what's funny, when it comes back to it, it all comes full circle. When I start my own business, it's like I had that right in front of me and I didn't know. So and then I just chose that path and never looked back.
It's really interesting because you never know what skills that you develop along the way will come back that will be to your advantage. Like how I just started making, I made Call of Duty videos in 8th grade. Before, it was the first time like digital recorders came out that I could hook up to my Xbox. So while all the parents at the time were saying, and even still saying, I don't want my kids to play PlayStation or anything like that, I'm the complete opposite. I learned all my creative skills trying to edit video, match the music, make the graphics for my YouTube channel, that then I fade away out throughout high school. But then working with Corey, it was a complete opportunity that I knew no one else knew how to do any of it, that then put yourself in an entry spot and then grow your skills from there. It all comes back around.
And that was a way of chasing your passion. I mean, that's why I always tell kids, do something. Do something. Try something. I did banquet serving from age 16 to 21, 22. I worked at the Holiday Inn, man. What I did learn from that is I need to go to college or I need to learn something because this ain't it. But I also learned how to work with people. I met a lot of people. I mean, if anything, the value of college is the networking and the people you meet. Yep. That's the value of college. But what I get at is go do something, man. Like go and talk to people, participate in activities, get a part-time job because you never know where that path's going to lead or who you're going to meet and that will later help.
And I would say like whatever your passion, like whatever your interests are at a young age, there are I wish someone had said there are ways to make money and to build a career and a job out of what you're doing right now. Like whenever I was making YouTube videos, the gaming industry wasn't a thing. No one was making money off that. But now if you're making music, if you're doing whatever, if you're knitting stuff, if you're working on cars, there is a possible way for you to build a business out of that.
Here's what's funny too, and I'll let you guys other chime in, but I hated to read growing up. Hated reading in school, hated all the stupid book reports. Same thing, I hated writing too. But when I started chasing this sports passion, I joined the student newspaper. I could write about sports. It taught me how to write. And then I became a great writer. Because I finally didn't have to write about some book from 1964 that I didn't even read to begin with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So I could write about sports, learn how to write. And it just helps.
So, all right, let's bounce this around. What's your one personal recommendation for a book for, let's say, a kid in high school or coming out of high school needs to read?
Well, that's what was actually going back to my point about not reading. So it just so happens a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk started popping in like 2010, right when I was starting a business. And I see the book on the bookshelf, black book, neon green, so it stands out. It said, "Crush It." It said, like, how to chase your passion and do something. I'm like, I don't read, but I think I want to read this. And I read it, and it was like, holy shit. It opened up my eyes that anything is possible if you have a passion, chase it. Now, Gary Vee is huge now. Everyone knows him. But that one book at that time in my life, for someone that didn't even want to read, now I love business books. I love consuming books, stuff I want to read about. But in that book, I mean, to your point, you can make money doing anything. One of Gary's early quotes was, you know what? If you love Smurfs, be the best freaking Smurf dude I know. Have the best Smurf YouTube channel, and you will make money being the Smurf guy. And that's the example you used was the Smurfs. But it's the same thing. Like, but you got to work. It ain't easy. Just like getting in shape and getting ripped and winning championships ain't easy. It's not for the faint of heart. And you'll find out real quick. But if you're able to put aside immediate satisfaction and gratification for delayed gratification, you're going to freaking win. But that would be, I guess, the early book that I think of. There's a ton of great books now that I continue to consume and read. But that was one that really changed it.
Treadway, what's your one recommendation?
Legacy. It's a book about the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team, but it talks about like building a culture, building a team, and building something that lasts much longer than the current iteration of the team. So like in the coaching world, it was super pertinent, but it's also, I was taking a lot of it and applying it to like the Max and the relationships that we build. And like everybody plays a different role, but we all play it to a high level. And that's like my one recommendation. Like, think about it beyond sports. Think about it in life and all the teams that you're a part of and how you can provide value. That's been a super impactful book for me.
Yep.
Colin, what about you?
Funny you say that, Treadway. It's actually the book I'm about to open up.
It's so good.
For my next book. I have never read it. So my buddy gave it to me a couple years ago. And I was like, I don't know if I'm about it, but I've heard good things, so I'm actually going to read it. It's so funny it's your top book. But my top book is a book called Optionality by Richard Meadows. And it's an interesting book. It's a guy who found financial freedom by the age of like 32 or 33. But basically he talks about is just having, you have options in life. It doesn't seem like it when, we obviously live in America. Like we say, you can do anything here, right? And having all these different options. But I think people just go this route where it's like you go from high school, you go to college. You go to college, you get your first job. You get a job, you find a wife, and then you have a kid. Like that's the only options that you have. It's like no, we have so many more options like than people really understand. And like going back to Aaron, like where it kind of stemmed from. Like I have a similar route. Was I went to school to be an accountant. And then I knew I wanted to get back into sports. I was the same way. I watched every sports center growing up. Top 10 was like my thing. It's how I relate to people. And then I wanted to get back into sports, interned, ended up getting a full-time job at Villanova, and then quit. And now I'm back in sports, doing my own thing, working for my own company. And then I'm able to work with you guys out at Max. And I'm not even from Ohio. I live in Philadelphia, but I still have a connection with you guys. So like you have so many options in life, and the more options that you create, the more options that come your way, which I think is really, really cool. So you just have to create these options along the way. So Optionality is a little bit of a longer book, but it's really, really worth the read. And I was hooked. I think I got through it in a weekend, but it's like a 350-page book. So if you guys haven't read it, I would recommend that one to you guys as well.
Yeah. Before we talked, we were talking about how athletes, they associate themselves to being an athlete all throughout high school. They have all this stuff. So my number one book recommendation is Above the Line by Urban Meyer. And it's because, all the way throughout high school, I wanted to play college ball. I was so close, about to sign the documents. I get the financial statement. I'm like, I honestly, I can't, I just cannot put myself in this situation. So it wasn't until I ended up going to the Ohio State branch campus. I'm paying a few grand a year to do that because I knew college was my route out of my circumstances. And I pick up this book and I start reading it. And all throughout high school and all throughout stuff, you have a coach helping you push to basically better yourself and get, keeping you accountable. You have that team and stuff like that. And I was missing that. I was desperately like in need of that. And I didn't know at the time until I bought this book because Urban Meyer, that 2014 team was my favorite team of all time. And I read it and I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is exactly what I've been like missing, which then made me like want to basically get dialed back in, set the goals for myself, basically continue to act like, even though I'm not playing football every day, like I'm still a football player and just in a different realm now. So that was the one that really helped it all tie back in.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Well, yeah, and I think that's a great spot to kind of wrap it up. Yeah, we're super excited about, kind of, we call ourselves, the Real Athletes Company. And, we've had this partnership with Storied Rivals, and now we're starting to kind of build out some systems in place, through Colin, Cole, myself, and the Athletes Network podcast, the social media stuff, all the branding stuff we're doing with Storied Rivals. Like, I'm really excited to just provide value to these athletes. We see it here, we see it online. Colin sees all these kids that are, starting to become aware of Max, and it's more than just a supplement brand like we touched on earlier.
We've always had a great partnership, but now we've developed like the routes in order to actually help the athletes.
Yep.
More besides than just the supplements that we provide, but in every realms of nutrition, supplements, training, stuff like that.
We want to be a resource. I mean, we want to be a resource as athletes, and basically as someone that they can rely on and go to. Like Corey built his platform and responded to a lot of freaking DMs, man. I mean, a lot of messaging to people really is helping people. And if that's your truth, helping people, and then so it's going to come back to you. If that's like the guiding thing, and not just chasing, it's like, what is the purpose of your product? And the ultimate purpose of your product is to help people. Yep. That's just the tool they do it. So
100%. Aaron, where can people get a hold of you for promotion and sponsorships?
Really, just at Storied Rivals in every platform. That's pretty. I barely even really have my own personal social media. I do everything through the brand. So at Storied Rivals, Instagram, Facebook, X is the good spots. We have a TikTok. We try to post there when we can. But yeah, just social media or Aaron at StoriedRivals.com or info@StoriedRivals.com works, and we'll get back with you. But really, man, just trying to again grow the business, continue to create our product, but keep trying to grow the business. And your network of athletes and your products hopefully will help assist in that, and vice versa.
Yep, awesome. 100%.
Well, Aaron, we can't thank you enough for all the partnership stuff and for hopping on the podcast. So this has been another episode of the Max Effort Athletes Network podcast. Please share it with your friends. Leave us a positive review, and we're out. Peace.